In this video, I'll tell you 3 things, and if you follow any of these or all of these, you'll be able to speak English fluently in 2026. Let's go. So let's start with the first part. Try to improve your hearing and pronunciation. I learned this little thing called if you can hear and pronounce clearly, speaking becomes very easy. Let me explain that to you. When you hear something clearly, your brain goes like, oh my god, I know this word. I understand what they're talking about, right? And on the other hand, if you pronounce clearly, the other person can understand you. That's why the conversation becomes very smooth. You understand, the other person understands, and speaking becomes very easy. And hearing clearly is very important because sometimes we watch movies, right? And we hear everything they're saying, but we don't seem to understand a single thing. It's because our ears, they don't catch the words. You have to catch the words. In order for that to happen, you need to do a lot of listening. That's why try to improve your hearing. Another part is about pronouncing clearly. I have a whole video on how to improve your pronunciation, but this video is not about that, so I will just focus on one simple thing. Clarity. Clarity is very important. So if you want to pronounce things clearly or if you want to speak clearly, try to improve your intonation. Be careful with the endings. So intonation is like when you speak with the melody, right? You don't speak monotone, but go up and down, okay? And endings, I would say this is the most important thing for me personally. When you pronounce the words end with T, D, P, B, or S's, be extra careful when you pronounce them. Instrument, instruments, cloud, stop, things like that, and be extra careful with them and you'll be fine. And the second part, how to remember vocabulary. I've seen comments saying things like, oh, how do I remember vocabulary? I just learned a new word today and tomorrow I can't seem to remember it. I forgot all the words that I learned. Words don't come out of my mouth when I speak. For that, I have one solution that I want you to implement. It's called think in pictures, not translations. Normally, what we try to do is we try to memorize in our native language, like apple equals the word in our native language. Instead of that, imagine the image of the apple in your head. Just simply apple, or maybe you're eating apple, maybe you're carrying apple. You can imagine in many different ways, but try to think in pictures. So when you do that, now the word is associated with feelings, emotions, maybe your personal memories, not just the translation anymore, and that will become so much easier for you to remember the word. Let's say you learn a new word, spectacular, which means like amazing, wonderful, spectacular, right? So in order to remember that, imagine a place that you've been to, that has a very good view, maybe on top of the mountain or by the corner of the street with the sunset. Think about that memory and go like, wow, that view was spectacular. If you do that, you'll be able to remember more words than you ever did. Another thing that you can do is learn full phrases, not single words. If you try to listen carefully, you will notice that people speak English in chunks, not single words. That's why I try to learn phrases. It's important too. It's important that I think it's important. What we're talking is about the word important, but we're not only talking about the word important. Now we're learning in chunks. Try to do that, and that's how you can remember more vocabulary. Now let's move on to the last part, part 3, how to speak English confidently. Speak early, but simply. Speak early means to start speaking with what you have. If you're thinking like, I will start speaking when I know enough words, when I know enough grammar, or when I am confident, then I'll start to speak. If you think in that way, you will never be confident because you never started. No matter how many words you know, no matter your English level, just start speaking with what you have and what you know. And eventually, if you speak more and more, the confidence will just build up by itself. I don't even need to tell you to be confident anymore. Just start early and speak simply. Yeah, so that's all for this video. Try to implement some of the things I say or all of the things I say, and I promise 2026 will be a good year and you'll be able to speak English fluently. Thank you for learning and see you in the next one. Bye-bye.